This is it. Oh, I wanted them to interact with Draco for the last time. Allah, man, this was so good. This was so good. This was really good. I mean, I enjoyed watching Harry Potter movies from the beginning up until the end. And honestly, in a way, I was kind of looking, was there any part that kind of like fell off? No. Maybe you can rank them, sure, what's the best until up until what's like not is the least best. But like I don't see any of the movies doing so bad, you know what I mean? You know? Like most I think all of the movies that I've watched in Harry Potter really did good. Like they genuinely did good. And this one did it perfectly. The plot was written beautifully. And I still like how the mother of Draco came to Harry Potter. She asked him, "Is Draco alive?" She wanted to make sure. He nodded. This to me was interesting because you would think they're all against him, but then the mother wants to make sure if his child is alive and he's been rescued by the person where they always had like where they were always fighting. They were always fighting against each other. Like Harry and Draco were always fighting. So to ask the person who was always in conflict with the other, it's just it has a greater impact when he nods. You know what I mean? That he's like, yeah, he's alive. You know, so it's interesting. And I did think he would use the Elder Wand to kill Voldemort. But I thought like it was gonna be a much bigger blow. But this still was great. Holy shit, this was great. I love the story, the plot, the soundtrack. The soundtrack really does it for me for a lot of movies. I like to really hear the soundtrack. And I'm not talking about the most obvious soundtracks. I'm talking about the subtle ones. This so like a whisper kind of volume. These set the scene. If you really pay attention to them, it sets the scene quite well. Nah, this was really great. Definitely one of the film series that I would actually revisit in the future. Holy shit. I wonder if there's about a 10-minute credit scene. There has to be a post-credit scene. I did think that the last part would be the most like the 2 hour 30 minute, not 2 hour and 10 minute. So that's one thing I did expect. So yeah. Lily Potter, James Potter, yeah, Lily. So her name is Lily Petunia, right? Lily Petunia. So Snape always loved Petunia. So assuming that's her name, Lily Petunia. He always loved her, and it's quite interesting that his Patronus charm is a doe, just like his mother. And Snape is actually, I think, yeah, Snape is the one. He sent that to help Harry find the sword. So it was Snape. And I always felt that. I mean, I knew Snape he turned on Harry and Dumbledore. Well, we now know. Dumbledore asked for it, and it was a strategy to kill Voldemort, and so Dumbledore knew he had to sacrifice himself. So it's really interesting. Like, even without knowing that knowledge, I could always tell that yes, Snape is doing something so-called evil, to simplify what I'm trying to explain. But you can tell he still cares, so you can tell he would still protect Harry. You can tell there's something. And he did that to get close with Voldemort, because if he killed Dumbledore, he would trust it. And that reminds me of Snape's death, the music that's going on right now in the credits. Obviously, I think it even played in the Snape's memories. There's a lot of things to talk about in this movie. The Snape memories, when that came up, the impact it had on the movie was amazing. The impact was so big. Like, holy shit. Like, because like, you know his story from the beginning, from part 1 to 2 to 3, and then comes at the end, explains the whole reveal about his history and what happened. Is definitely, it hits you hard. Like, holy shit. Like, I cried multiple times in this movie, and rightfully so. It's like, it's beautifully written. It's beautifully written. The filmmaking was fantastic. Soundtrack was on point. And when you clash those things together with a couple other things, you create an impactful story that makes it emotional, whatever. So yeah, I mean, it reminds me when when Voldemort was explaining to Snape slowly about why the wand is resisting him. And slowly we're getting what it's at, because the Elder Wand switches. Its new owner becomes, oh, I'm stumbling. When you kill the owner of the wand, now the person becomes the wand, or if you disarm them. Snape was basically supposedly the Elder Wand owner. And so Voldemort realized that, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna kill you now, so now it belongs to me, so that it doesn't resist me anymore. turns out, like Harry said, he dismantled the wand from Dumbledore's hand. Technically, it belonged to him at this point. But the part that confused me is Harry said, "Well, I disarmed Draco's wand back at that place. I forgot the name, but it wasn't it doesn't have the Elder Wand at the time for sure. But I'm assuming it doesn't need the fact that it doesn't Draco doesn't need the Elder Wand as long as you disarm them with, regardless of the wand he's carrying. Then the ownership of the Elder Wand switches to the person who did that. So hopefully I didn't freaking confuse anybody with that explanation. I mean, you guys all understand what happened and all that. I'm just kind of like processing what happened and just recalling things that made me freaking like appreciate this movie. And yeah, you can see also freaking Hermione giving appreciation to Ron for being brilliant. So it's something that's quite opposite and new. I'm gonna revisit those movies. The soundtrack in the Harry Potter movies, it's played so nicely. It makes you feel sadness, hope, but at the same time, it's serious and we could die, and realization of, oh, you cared for me, or like I'm about to lose someone I love. Like there's a lot of mix of emotions when I hear that soundtrack, and they did it perfectly. I say it again, like the movies from the beginning till end are amazing. Every movie I really loved it. We can rank them and all, but I wouldn't say which is the best and which is the worst, like best to worst kind of ranking. What I would say is which is the best and which is to the least best. You get me? Because it's still good. It's just which are much better. Doesn't mean that the others are worse. You know what I mean? It's more of like just a different frame of mind. And with that being said, I enjoyed the Harry Potter series. I hope you enjoyed this reaction. And with that being said, peace. Take care of yourself.